Ever since the release of Super Mario Bros. On the Nintendo Entertainment System, every single console and home computer needed to have their own mascot or Mario clone. And today we will be talking about the most accurate Mario clone on the ST, or maybe even on any system for that matter. This game resembles the original so well, it is considered a complete rip-off by some. Yet it was a welcome addition to the ST games library in the twilight years of the system. So make sure to smash the like button and let's go! The ST had a great catalog of platform games released over the course of its lifespan. Companies like Titus with games as the Blues Brothers, or Titus the Fox, or Ocean's the Addams Family game. There are countless of examples, all inspired by Mario. The list goes on and on. But the king of all clones, the game that got its publisher in trouble with Nintendo when it was released, that must have been the Manfred trance classic The Great Giana Sisters. But that is not the game we're talking about today. That story deserves an episode on its own anyhow. No, the game we're dealing with here is called Super Stario Land. And that's right, to start they only replaced the M in the title. And when I saw the pictures in the preview article of the June 95 edition of ST format, I only had to blink to notice this was a straight up conversion of the Game Boy game Super Mario Land. And look at the main character sprite, for crying out loud, that can't be right! Just like millions of gamers, I must have completed Super Mario Land on the Game Boy a gazillion times. I loved it, so I was excited for the Stario release. Stario Land was published by Byte Software, a publisher that released some excellent games in the final years of the ST, most notably Alien Thing, which was a clone of the Amiga classic Alien Breed. The game was created by Adrian Keylock, who started programming together with his dad James Keylock at a very young age. They released the platformer Steeplejack for the ZX Spectrum in 1985. Adrian was still in his early teens when he did the graphics and some of the programming on this game. Afterwards, he moved on to the ST to create another two games. The first one was a very slick vertical shooter called Andromeda, which was a shareware title. And finally, he created Super Stario Land. But there's another really cool twist to the story. You see, eventually the game got in the hands of a guy named James Matthews, who was the head of Byte Software, which was effectively the commercial arm of PowerPD. James really liked what he saw, he loved the game, but he couldn't release it in its current form because he knew he would get sued by Nintendo. So he got in touch with Richard Davey, and this name must ring a bell to a lot of Atari fans, as Richard was the founder of the Little Green Desktop. It was his job to replace all the sprites in the game, and hopefully this way keeping it from the radar of Nintendo. He was restricted to the same size and the same 4 colors used by the developer for each sprite. It was because of these technical limitations that the game ran so fast and smoothly, but at the cost of how it looked visually. Only the colorful backdrop, which was just a raster trick, saved it from being too bland. He replaced Mario with Calvin, based on the comic Calvin and Hobbes. Wasps, weird little spiked head Bettys, and so on replaced the Goombas from the original. Potion bottles replaced mushrooms, and he redraw a good chunk of the tiles as well. And a fun little fact, the title screen was ripped from the game Pac-Land. The logo and all the other Pac-Man related things were removed and the Stario credits added. It was one of his first jobs as a graphics artist, and he did pretty well, but he never saw a penny. And Stario Land? Well, that was released in September of 1995, and Nintendo never complained. I guess they couldn't be bothered anymore by then. It received a good score in ST Format magazine. But what do I think of the game? Let's find out. If you enjoyed the video so far, please smash the like button. It really helps me out. Thank you. Now let's continue, and let's start with the graphics. While some stuff in the background would have added this extra punch, I still think the game looks amazingly polished. Mostly due to the super slick scrolling. Super Stario Land plays like a dream on an Atari ST. The game is colorful enough for my taste, the sprites are nicely detailed, but most importantly, it just looks and plays like a Mario game. Now when we're talking about sound, we have a nice intro and outro tune and some standard sound effects in-game. However, by pressing the F9 key, we are treated with some amazing chiptunes by none other than Big Alec. You can't go wrong with that. The only complaint I have is that you can't have in-game music and sound effects at once. What is really worth mentioning is that the levels are randomly generated, so you're never playing the same game twice. Enemies are never put on the same spot, and platforming always seems a bit different. The drawback, however, is the actual level design. Because of this generated world, the levels sometimes feel a bit, I don't know, a bit boring, especially compared to the original. It feels as if certain screens appear in the same level up to 3 times. Stario also suffers from the typical inertia. He slides and slides, and because the level design is just more difficult than the original, with a lot more pits and cliffs to fall to your death, this little handicap really gets frustrating from time to time. And all of this even though controlling your character is spot on, you just need some practice. And on a final note, the famous pipes from the original game also make an appearance in Stario. But sadly, I did not find a single one, which led me to a hidden bonus room. They're just for show. However, if you're a Super Mario Land fan and you think the original is a little bit too easy and you're not afraid of a challenge, then this is your cup of tea. Super Stario Land truly is a hidden gem on the Atari ST. Technically, it's just perfect. The level design could use some work, but don't let that hold you back. And for the beautiful people still watching, thank you. Especially for you, some final bits of trivia. A follow-up to Super Stario Land was released in January of 1996 called Stario's Christmas. This was almost the same game, with new levels and a Christmas theme. However, end of level bosses were added to spice things up. And finally, a third part in the Stario series was announced called Space Ace Stario, but it never made it. I guess by then, even Top Byte gave up on the Atari ST, and probably for the best. Well, that's it. Remember, stay
Atari. Stay Atari. Stay Atari.
Bye.